I'm going to bring in our next guest now. We're joined in studio by African expert Dr. Sithembile Mbete, also an executive director, Public Affairs Research Institute. Dr. Mbete, thank you so much for your time, and I mean, a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Listening to the discussions. Of course, we saw early on in this session, the Leaders Summit opening, how President Cyril Ramaphosa made that announcement, essentially saying that, you know, the leaders have now adopted this declaration. 30-page document later, we're now sifting through it to just look at some of the key themes, of this document. But at the heart, I think, of South Africa's presidency was really putting African priorities, at heart. How well do you think that they've achieved this?
Thank you so much for having me. I think that South Africa has been relatively successful in putting African issues front and center of the G20. South Africa has been the only African and continues to be the only African member state of the G20. The AU became a member of the G20 along with the EU, to join the EU as a regional organization that is part of the G20 in 2023. But South Africa really has used its presidency to platform issues of the African continent. And what we saw on air just a little while ago was a joint press conference between South Africa and Germany, who were co-chairs of this working group on Africa and on the G20's partnership with Africa, whose focus really has been around how to have greater engagement between the member states of the G20, the G20 includes economically significant economies, so systemically significant economies on the global stage, and to include them to look at how to better engage with Africa in partnership, not in relations of domination or exploitation, but really to enhance the partnership between the G20 and African states. And we heard from the World Bank president about some of the advancements that have been made in the development of an Africa Compact 2.0, which will run from 2025 until 2033, and which will really try to action some of the decisions and commitments that have come out of the G20 this year.
I mean, when you listen to some of the statements that have been made, Africa must seize the moment. It might sound glib or, just very out there, but I actually think it is a moment for Africa. Just having looked at how throughout the presidency, South Africa has really tried to be inclusive. When you look at the people that have been invited even to this particular summit, I mean, in that press briefing, we saw how South Africa side by side had the AU president, the Angolan president, present too, to make those statements. I mean, whilst we know that a lot of symbolism goes into the G20 presidency, but a lot is riding on the African continent because of the geopolitics around us, because of the uncharted waters and the uncertainty. But what are some of the things that you think immediately that the African nations should start prioritizing and seizing this moment, particularly because now they still have the global stage?
Well, I think that the first thing is an acknowledgement that Africa is the continent of the future. 70% of Africans are under the age of 30. By 2050, 1 in 4 people on the globe will be African. So 25% of the world population will be African. And what that means is that the workforce of the future is on the African continent. The consumer base of the future is on the African continent. And so any kind of global economy will not be able to thrive without the active participation and empowerment of Africans, because this is where the labor force is going to be and this is where the money is going to be. The second thing is that this is also where so many of the natural resources that are going to drive the economy of the future, we speak of critical minerals, so many of those are on the African continent. And so being able to take advantage of our mineral wealth, but to do so in a mutually advantageous way and not perpetuating the same colonial exploitative relations that we have come to define our economic participation as a continent over the past 400 years, I think is really critical. So in seizing the opportunity, I think firstly, just cooperation, actually implementing and actioning the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which, ooh, look at hear that.
The thunder. We've been saying that it's raining so much in Johannesburg.
Even nature agrees with us about this, putting the African Continental Free Trade Agreement into action around really cooperating on easier trade amongst ourselves as Africans, greater investment and facilitating greater investment in the development of infrastructure and in the development of our own people, in human development, in human capacity to be able to take advantage.